I'm Dr. Daria Brzezinski, and you are watching What Wise Women Want here on Charlottesville's Comcast Channel 13. Every week we bring you panels of women to discuss topics that might be of interest to you. Ladies, we are 52% of the population. We have 85% of the purchasing power. What we'd like to do is educate you to make informed choices to use that power for the good of yourself, your family, your children, and the community. If you'd like more information about any of our guests on our panel, any future programs, or you'd like to ask us a question that we can have because we tape in advance, you can go to our website at www.whatwisewomenwant.com, and remember, Wize is spelled with a Z. There you'll find information on each one of our panelists, those that we've had in the past and those that we will be having in the future. Today our topic is a very interesting and unique one because I think we're going to have a little bit of fun, a little bit of contrast to the much more serious ones that we've had in the past. Our topic today is indulging in a retreat getaway. And our panelists today are women who own or are executive directors of retreat getaways. To my right is Margretta McIlvane, and she is the founder of Bridge Between the Worlds. To her right is Antonia Albano. She is the owner and general manager of the South River Highlands Country Retreat. And to her right is Nancy McMoneagle, who is the executive director and president of the Monroe Institute. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think the first thing what we need to do is to let people know a little bit about each one of your, I think most people probably haven't heard of most of your organizations, so or your centers. So let's start by telling people just a little bit about what it is that you do. Maggie, would you like to start?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Yes, I started Bridge Between the Worlds Retreat Center about 10 years ago. And it is located about half an hour east of Charlottesville. And it's located on 20 acres, and it's between two nice big horse farms. And it has a lovely lake that it's situated on. And throughout the year, we host a variety of workshops and seminars, and authors come and speak about their books, and we've had concerts and some mindfulness meditation retreats, and just wonderful people that have come actually from all over the United States and some from Europe as well. And in addition to that, some people create their own private healing retreat, because sometimes you don't want to go join, a program at a retreat center. You might just want to create one all on your own. So I have a lovely little retreat cabin that people stay in. There's 2 other rooms in the center that people can stay and have their time away from the busyness of their life to have time to do a hot tub and an infrared sauna. And there's lovely walks people can go on and do their journaling and writing and just revitalize themselves from the busyness of their life.
Excellent. Nancy, what's the Monroe Institute?
Well, the Monroe Institute has been in Nelson County for a number of years, and actually my stepfather, Robert Monroe, started it over 40 years ago. And it is a charitable organization dedicated to exploring and developing states of consciousness. What is this all about? Expanded states of consciousness. And so many years ago, he was looking at the effects of sound and how that affected our states of consciousness, and how could we use that to better access who we are, to help transform ourselves to be better people, in essence. And so we hold programs at the Institute throughout the year where people from all over the world come, and they spend 6 days, or sometimes we have weekends, but usually it's a week-long program. And they are exploring different levels of consciousness that they possibly never had access to before. We've had people say it's like learning how to become a yogi in 1 day to 2 days, what they take a lifetime to do in terms of getting into deep states of mindfulness. And again, we use auditory guidance, such as hemisync, and also a new type of auditory guidance the Institute is researching these days called the SAM technology. So we're using all these various sounds. The people get together. There are group exercises. It's also very individual. Like Margretta's place, we are way out in the country, and people, again, from cities and other countries come. They can walk around and enjoy nature at its best, and also enjoy who they really are.
Excellent. Antonia.
Well, I get to be the steward of 250 acres of some beautiful rolling farmland in 4 miles from downtown Lexington. And we have events going on throughout the year also, and also concerts and workshops and personal, couple, and family retreats. So we have 5 authentic log cabins situated and spread out among, on the 250 acres. We've recently just remodeled a 6,000 square foot dairy barn for larger events and workshops and music events and whatever. And we've got, I feel like the land is magical, and it's something that, when you're on it, that you actually really feel. And so I really am thrilled to be able to offer it and share it to others to come and get away from their usual crazy, busy lifestyles and enjoy some of the quietude of some beautiful farmland.
Well, I've been lucky enough to be at all 3 of your enterprises, and so and they're all spectacularly beautiful and out in the country and in the quiet and peaceful. The rolling hills, it's just that each one of them is so amazingly special. So one of the things that we all talked about prior to this is the title, Indulging. And, as women, we tend not to indulge ourselves. Everybody seems to come before us, our children, our spouses, our family and friends. And in your words, how would you define, indulgence? And is that really what it's all about? I mean, shouldn't this be a part of daily life? So anybody, would you like to talk about what indulgence means to you?
Well, one of the things that struck me was indulgence in the topic that, as we're discussing, it seems to be that we're supposed to be doing something very, very special that we need to pay ourselves with or repay ourselves with. And I would love to have it be something that is not the word indulgence that's used, but that it's something that we take into our daily lives as a necessity more than an indulgence, and that we do it on a more regular basis, and it becomes part of our lives to take care of ourselves in all the ways that we want to take care of ourselves. So
I so agree with you, Antonia, because when we think of the word indulge, it's like something that you get to do every once in a while, and sometimes it's something that's not good for you. And this is the opposite, because it's so good for you, and we really lead stressful lives in Western culture and other cultures too. And the more that we're able to take care of ourselves and not feel that it's an indulgence, but it's actually a gift that when we give to ourselves, we give to everyone around us.
Exactly.
It could really bring a lot more peace and clarity in the workplace and in homes, and certainly for mothers who carry such a big load. It would be a wonderful gift to give to them.
Mothers who are working, mothers who are taking care of husbands and, well, a husband, and their children and so forth. And we're very fortunate in that we are out of the city environs and are able to commune with nature. And and I would like to say that it's not an indulgence to go out into nature, to take a walk, because that is like connecting with some greater part of ourselves, if you will. So that's a very big part of what we do at the Institute, is to have people get out and enjoy the outside instead of the rat race of the everyday. So indulgence, chocolate is an indulgence. But otherwise, yes, I think we need to take much better care of ourselves.
Yes.
And then allowing ourselves to get into these deeper, more relaxed states, which is, of course, I think what all of us are doing in our various places.
Absolutely.
We definitely all have hectic lives. I mean, the state of the world and society and culture and all of it, you know, everybody lives on this fast forward life. And as a therapist, I'm dealing with people who are trying to say, how do I get off? You know,
Right.
how do I
yes,
stop
right.
being a part of,
Yes.
you know, everybody can't, I mean, I did in terms of raising my children. I homeschooled them, you know, I got off the grid, all of it. But most people don't feel safe or feel like they can do that. So how does, you know, and it's a fine line here because it does cost money to go to each one of your places. So let's talk about somebody like a single mom, okay? How does a single mom able to, you know, she's got children, she's the only person. How can she possibly partake? And I think if we go to single mothers, then, you know, we can virtually take over everybody if we can go there. So how does somebody like that be able to do, who really needs to give to themselves? How would they participate?
Well, in our case, we actually have CDs that provide the type of sound that I was mentioning earlier that helps guide you into these deeper states of consciousness. And for people who are very nervous and so forth, it will help them relax. People who have a hard time sleeping, these sounds help you get into a very deep, restful sleep. You want to get into altered states of consciousness without drugs, you can use the sound technology. So that would be one way that it doesn't cost very much. There's also the concept of trade. You know, for someone who doesn't have money, I bet you all do this as well.
Yes, we do.
Right. So, you know, if someone really wants to then come participate in a program at our institute, we could consider bartering services at times. Not a whole lot, of course, because we still have to run the place. But yes, so.
Right. I agree with you. The first thing I'd really like to say about that is that when we think of, you know, going to have a getaway that would help the single mother or, you know, somebody who's being too stressed out, it's amazing that it doesn't take that long, even if they came for a day, you know, or even an afternoon. It's lovely to be able to come and be there for the whole weekend.
Right.
Or a whole week for that matter, but it doesn't really take that long to start unwinding. I've had people come out to my center and the drive out, I remember when I was looking for the property, I remember one of my, you know, prerequisites or whatever was, the drive out needs to be beautiful. So by the time they've taken this lovely drive out, and then my driveway is about a half a mile long, they've de-stressed partly before they even get there. So I just would like to say it doesn't need to take that long for them to get some benefit. But like Nancy said, I also do some bartering because, needless to say, there are many, many, many things to do. People come and they help with the catering or the cooking. Or, you know, afterwards, there's things that we need to tend to in the gardens. I've got, you know, herbal gardens and vegetable gardens and, you know, all sorts of things that need to happen. So there's always a creative way to work that out.
That's good to know. Antonia?
We have events. In fact, a number of our events are actually what I call them abundance offerings or love donations, so that people can not feel uncomfortable and not stay away because they feel like they can't afford it. So they can make an offering in an anonymous basket toward the event, so that they don't feel uncomfortable and that they're donating toward the event. And we don't have all of our events are not that type of donation, but many of them are. Sometimes people come out just to walk on the property, and they would obviously need permission. It's a private farm, but just walking on the property, as I said before, the land is magic, and it feels really good. So just taking a walk and going down by the river. We're right above the confluence of the Maury River and the South River. So there's a beautiful 7-mile walk right across the road from us. We also have a place on the we call it Mount Grace, and it's got a 360-degree view. And so just the walk up there is about a half-mile walk, and just a de-stressing, beautiful commune. And something you had said, Nancy, about getting out in nature And I know that all of us here are familiar with Michelle Paralandra.
Yes.
And one of the things that really impressed me when I listened to some of her work was that we forget that we are nature.
That's right.
We always talk about going out in nature, and
Right.
what's really important is to remember that we are nature.
We're not
And
separate.
exactly, and that's why I think being out in what we call nature is a recognition of our bodies recognized because we're communing with ourselves, and it brings a different,
very
a
good
different,
point.
a different
Well said.
balance.
Well
Very
said,
well
is
said.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you, Michelle, because when I heard that, it was like it really resonated with me.
Yes.
And that's why I live, I mean, because of the work that I do and the stress that I have in my position, as helping people as a therapist and things like that, to be out, I live out in the country just to go out there and just be and walk around and, see the deer at night, turning my lights on and off and things like that. It just is a decompression that you can't imagine. And I never thought of it that way as, being a part of, it's a part of us. And they always say that, the body is stardust, we're the stuff of stardust.
Well, speaking of bodies, I have to say this because this is part of this. What we ask people to consider at the Institute, one thing, there's no belief system, no religious stuff, nothing like that. But we do ask you to consider one thing, that you are more than your physical body. And when people get into that and realize that they are, then they get that connection like you're talking about, that I don't want to sound too esoteric, but we all are one. We are connected to everything. And that sense, they call them exceptional human experiences, also known as peak experiences. You'll see them in all the sacred traditions. And when you can get quiet enough, which is what I think all of us are offering people, then you can access that deeper sense of self, that deeper connection to everything. And that can be life-changing. It's life-empowering. And so that's why I'm so excited to be back. I was at the Institute 23 years ago as its director, and I just came back 2 months ago. So it's been quite a process.
A learning curve, I'm sure.
Yes, indeed. But anyway, it's been fun. It's also been fun. But what's fun for me also is hearing you guys, because I have to come see your places.
Promise.
Well,
Yes.
one of the things that you were talking about, in terms of the way our lives have been geared, I remember reading many years ago, probably in college, leisure is the basis of culture, and how we were all going to have the 20-hour work week and have all this leisure and
from home.
because of technology.
Well, that's true, or was true.
Because of technology
20-hour work
and
weeks.
everything else,
That's
and
right.
and we have gone just the opposite direction, where it's constantly in front of the technology, and even though it may not be work, it feels like work, and there's no letting go of all that stuff. Were you going to say something?
No.
Oh, so one of the wonderful parts about what it is that you all do is to be able to get away from all of that and be able to just reconnect with silence and peace, and even the electricity running through our homes and all the noises outside and everything else. Your place is, the three of you have places that you can just so decompress and get away from all of the cell phone, the technology, and all of that, which is, again, a magical part, not just participating in your
Exactly.
activities.
Well, it's so deeply restorative.
Yeah.
And I think that we forget how deeply restorative being in nature can be, nature, that we are nature. And it helps connect us back to our core.
Right.
And we can get all locked up in our heads and we're just living from here, and it helps us come back to our heart. And I feel it also, when we speak about resonant fields, and I know at the Institute there's a lot of talking about resonant fields and coherence. And when we're in nature and in the forest or in the woods or on the lake, whatever, there's a kind of resonant field that I think supports us to come back from our stressed out, kind of frenetic way of being. And it just naturally grounds us.
And it's not like you're disconnected from technology, because you have saunas and other kinds. It's not like you're disconnected, and you have
Use the technology.
Yeah, exactly.
And to
you-
access these other
exactly.
states.
We all have
of being,
electricity.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it still
Running
called? Is
water.
it a deprivation tank? What?
Well, we actually, it's not a tank.
No, I know it's not. It's
but
a
we do
room.
have a place at the Institute where people can go in, a shielded room, and we try to make sure they're not having any kind of electromagnetic stimulation or anything like that. Then someone in a control room on the other side takes them into this very deep state, and then they go explore other ways of being outside of time, space, outside of physical matter, reality concerns. They don't care if they're carrying a Gucci purse or not. The values, everything can get changed vastly when you go deeply into self.
Very good.
Yeah.
And I was very privileged to be in the tank with your father. So he was the one doing.
You were?
Yes.
Excuse me.
I meant he was at the control of the whole situation.
And he had the perfect voice, didn't he?
He
to just
did.
take you down.
Yes, absolutely.
And these
That's
can be
right.
heard, of course, on the HemiSync
right.
CDs and some of the SAM CDs too, I believe. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
And many
But it-
people, swear. I mean, I've heard people who have visited your places and who swear by, I mean, I know famous authors who use your father's tapes, and people who have gone. I mean, people are coming to you from California, and the same goes for you as well. So it's not like this is just a local. These are 3 local enterprises that we're talking about here.
Do you know, I think we're better known in Tokyo than we are in Nelson
I
County.
I feel we're better known in England. and
Exactly.
California.
I mean, it's pretty amazing.
And I'd like the community to know more about it. And to,
Right.
Well, I think
So
that's
it's
the
not too
whole
far.
point
So
of my
we're-
doing
So thank you
this.
for inviting us to do this. So we can do
because
Absolutely.
I know you're all known from very far away, and people
Yes.
come from long distances to come to your place. But when I've mentioned your places to other people, they're like, "Really? I never heard of it before." So, what is it about this saying? You're famous everywhere else except at home.
I think it's the prophet's known except in his own land or some such thing like
Exactly,
that.
exactly. So, but let's get into a little bit of the kinds of things that you do. I mean, you all kind of gave a brief information in terms of your introduction here. But, if I were a person looking at your website, or, if I wanted to come and visit the place and things like that, what kinds of offerings do you have? Let's start with one thing. Can I stay overnight at all of your places? Let's start there.
Yes.
Okay. So there's overnight lodging at each place.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And they're basically, yours are mostly log cabins and things like that, but modernized, not.
No, mine are not log cabins.
Oh,
hers are beautiful, wonderful log cabins.
Right,
I've stayed in one.
right.
They're wonderful. No, I have rooms in the house, and then there is a retreat cabin.
Okay.
Yes.
And yours
And
are.
we have a center, and we have within that center these little things called CHECK units. Bob loved acronyms. He should have been in the Army. CHECK, Controlled Holistic Environmental Chambers. Thank you very much.
Oh, my goodness.
And it looks like one of Thomas Jefferson's little places where he
Right.
would sleep.
Right.
And again, you go in there and they listen to I keep saying tapes, forgive me, that really does date me, but they listen to the guided exercises over the headsets in these little chambers. They stay for a week, typically. Again, they're from all
not
over
in that
the
little
world.
chamber.
Yes, they are, absolutely. We don't let them out. Yeah. So they listen to the exercises there. Then you have your individual experience. You come downstairs, you get with the group, and then they share what their experiences were to the extent they feel like sharing. And then they go outside, or they take a bit of a break, and then they go back and they do it again. This is about self-exploration, about understanding how can we use more of this thing we call consciousness. And so that's what happens. They come, they listen, they get with groups, and they have exceptional experiences.
Well, my experiences, you had a huge party. When I walked into that cabin, it was so amazingly. I mean, I've never seen such a huge cabin
Yes.
before in my life to have all those people, and then this big fireplace, and
helping
so it's really kind of a rustic, and that's what I think is so much of the appeal of both of your places, because it's more of a rustic kind of, and for me, wood. And, wood was an alive kind of, process with the trees growing and things like that. Whereas a lot of the metal and steel, isn't necessarily connecting us as much as what you all have. And so I felt this real affinity with, the wood kinds of structures. And each one of you has ponds and, water, or water facilities or,
Water feature.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so all of those things add to, everything that you have. It's not just the content, the reason I'm saying this, because you look up a workshop and you think of the workshop, but you don't think of the environment that you're going to. You can go to a workshop in a hotel room, okay? But this is different.
Yes.
But this is different. This is very, very different. It's a whole experience. It's a whole environmental kind of experience that you all offer. And that's why, I wanted to have you talk about it, because it's unique compared to other places you might go to maybe get the same kinds of workshops or lectures or whatever, but a different kind of experience.
That is such a good point. As you all know, I went to the Brennan School of Healing many years ago, and I loved that training. It was extraordinary, but it was all held in hotel rooms with no windows, and it was very difficult. And so when I built the conference room that all the workshops are held in, I made sure that it's almost all windows all the way around, and then 4 skylights. So, and it's overlooking the lake and the garden, so that when somebody's there and they're in there all weekend doing the workshop, you can open all the doors and windows and have a sense that you're also outside.
Yes.
You're not just crammed in a hotel room. So,
And in fluorescent lights.
beautiful.
right, that's exactly right.
And whatever else is,
you.
there as well. You have been listening to What Wise Women Want here on Charlottesville's Public Access Television, Comcast Channel 13. We have a panel of women today talking about indulging in retreat getaways. And these are places locally, well, for the most part locally, that you can drive to that are amazing kinds of experiences, not just the content of their lectures and workshops and things of that nature, but the grounds themselves are absolutely spectacularly transformational because they're very aesthetically beautiful and out in nature. To my right is Margretta McIlvane. She is the founder of Bridge Between the Worlds. To her right is Antonia Albano, who is the owner and general manager of South River Highlands Country Retreat. And to her right is Nancy McMoneagle, who's the executive director and president of the Monroe Institute. And if you keep hearing me flounder when I introduce them, it's because I've known these women for a long time and I know their nicknames, unfortunately, and I keep moving towards nicknames instead of their proper names. So I apologize
You are
for that.
permitted.
Okay.
You are permitted.
We won't even say what Nancy's is, but anyway, so let's get back to our topic here. So now we'll get deeper into the kinds of offerings that you have for, let's just say, workshops. So we talked about you do different types. You might do a one-day one. You might do a weekend retreats. You might have different kinds of offerings. So let's take each one of you and tell us about specifically the kinds of topics, maybe, because I know some of them are real. Like Margaretta has the laughing retreat and things like that. So let's talk about the different kinds of. You want to start, Antonia?
Surely. We've had 3 laughter yoga certification
two,
workshops
yes.
at our place also. What a treat.
Yes.
Lots and lots of laughs. Hold an annual retreat every year based on the celebration of love, and those workshops vary with speakers throughout the entire course, and it goes from anything from 2 days to 7 days, depending upon the year and what we want to do. We've had reading groups there. We've had music concerts, and I really want to bring back the soiree, which is more of the private 15, 20 person with a musician or musicians, and like a lovely cocktail party or something like that. And I've done a couple of those, but it does take some time to do. We actually specialize we are a self-catering retreat center. So we often invite singles, couples, and groups to come out they may not see us at all. People who come out for a single or couple retreat probably don't even meet us unless they see us on the land enjoying it ourselves. So we really want to respect that. So our part of our retreat and what we offer is beautiful grounds, a lovely rustic modernized cabin, and the silence and quiet. And we do not have internet at the cabins. We actually encourage people to unplug. So
I was waiting for you to tell me that.
It's hard. That was my campaign last year: is unplug and recharge and reboot, and receive the gifts. That was my logo. But we have private workshops coming in where people do make their own offerings. And I can't think of anything else right now. We've had music. We've had.
So it's a good variety.
It's a very nice variety, and we're open. We actually rent space, so we are normally not the ones putting the event on. We do for the Celebration of Love annual event.
Right.
We do for some of the music events because I initiate them, and I want to bring that there. We have artists that come out and paint the entire day or weekend that they're there. So we offer the land, the rusticness, the step back in time, modernized step back in time. We offer an incredible starry sky and sometimes the Milky Way. And we've got we have events where we invite people to come up and walk our modern day labyrinth that was just finished a year ago. It's a 110-foot centerpiece, and then it has a whole circle, 2 circles around it. So it's on Mount Grace. And so that is an event in and of itself. We've had sometimes solstice. We have a meditation garden that has 3 tiers with quiet, just sitting benches.
So your facility is conducive to the kinds of, various from the gamut of experiences. So you don't necessarily create these yourself. Other people create, which is really good to know. It's like, it's multi-purpose kind of thing and not really completely focused.
Sometimes I initiate them and put them together, and other times people approach me and ask if they can rent the space to put on their own workshops, which is what the laughter yoga was.
Margretta, how is yours organized?
Well, it's very similar, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, it's very similar that I have my own training that I'm doing with certain students. So that's what I offer privately. But I open up the space and the conference room to people who bring their own workshops in, like what you were just saying. And I often am there and I'll greet them, but they are self-contained and they have their own email list that they, bring their people in from, and I certainly advertise it. But you've probably heard of Alberto Velado, who is a wonderful teacher. And so there's a woman who trained with him and worked at his school, and she brings all of her programs. She teaches her school there throughout the year. And I've just been studying with Myrna Martin from British Columbia. It's a professional training for pre- and postnatal trauma. And she now is going to run all the rest of her programs out of Bridge Between the Worlds.
Well, the thing that I'm trying to bring out here is that this is not, because we had talked earlier about consciousness and things like that, and the thing what I really wanted to bring out was the fact that you all are multi-purpose. It's not just the kinds of workshops that you want to bring, but everybody, other people,
we teach our own workshops
or your own.
Right, Antonia, exactly.
Now, you're a little different, yes?
I've always been different.
Thank you, Nancy.
Actually, we have a number of our own programs, but we also do have a couple of other programs come in. People, I don't know if you've ever heard of William Buellman, but he is very big in the out-of-body scene. Now, I should add, many of our viewers probably do not know that Robert Monroe is known for being the out-of-body fellow. He wrote the book Journeys Out of the Body and 2 other books after that. And all of this started because of this, out-of-body experiences, which is yet another state of consciousness. And so in terms of programs, though we never promise anyone they're going to have an out-of-body, we do give programs with the tools. We give people the tools to achieve that state if they want. And William Buellman is one such person who comes and teaches people how to get into that state of consciousness. Peter Russell, you all may have heard of before, he comes and gives a program in, what is it called? Exploring the essence of yourself and opening up. Again, all of this has to do with going within and going out like this, but it's all because it's here. And we have our own programs, about 15 of our own different programs, everything from the voyage, we call it the Gateway Voyage, which is cute. You know, if you're dyslexic at all, I was looking at this, the getaway. You change a couple of letters around, it is the gateway, and we're talking about the gateway into new states of being.
That's great.
And so we start with the
great.
Gateway Voyage, a voyage into discovery of self. And then we go from there into a program called Guidelines, where you're getting in touch with, how shall I put it, other ways of accessing information. Some people might call them getting in touch with your guides, your angels, your inner self-helper, the all that is, by whatever terminology, so that you teach people how to access other states of being and other ways of getting the information so you can use it in your everyday life. This is not all woo-woo. Yeah, woo-woo, exactly. Some of it is. Some people love that. Other people want to know, how can I be a better decision maker, a more creative problem solver? How can I use this with my kids? Or how can I use this to better understand my relationships, or etc. So anyway, we have, and then there's the more esoteric type programs like Timeline, if you want to talk about going into your past, unhooking from something maybe that happened and has made you like this and non-free for many years, and you unhook from that, and then you go into the further past. Now we get a little bit more esoteric.
Right.
For people who believe in past lives and so forth, you can explore that type of thing. Then, Timeline is the name of the program, then you also come back to present and go into the future. What does your future self tell you? What's happening in the future? What do you want to bring back? Again, how can you enhance your life here today?
Well, you also have a famous husband who was in the military.
Well, I hadn't gotten to that
who does remote viewing.
Right. We have
He taught remote viewing in the military.
Well, he was actually known as 001 remote viewer, first remote viewer for the military. It was a secret project at the time called Stargate. Has nothing to do with the movie, by the way, but it was called Stargate. And Joe currently trains or facilitates the remote viewing program. Now, what is remote viewing? It is about being able to perceive remotely something you would have no idea what it is. And the difference between being psychic and being a remote viewer is there are very strict scientific protocols in place for being a remote viewer. So for example, I'm also, besides being the director now of the Institute, we have our own company as well. It's called Intuitive Intelligence Applications. People come to me and say, can Joe help me with this? I'm looking for a certain kind of stone, or I'm looking for oil on this property, or whatever. Or I'm looking for this missing person. And so what I will do is put together what we call the target. I'll write the person's name down, put it in a sealed envelope. He never knows. It could be a cow in Montana. He doesn't know what the target is. I give it a number and say, tell me what I need to know about the target. So this is one of the things he teaches people to do. And
it was used quite, a generation ago. It was used in the military, which is where Joe,
that's where
was we won't go there right now. We won't go there. So one of the things, so we've talked about kind of, we're skirting issues here, in terms of the kinds of retreats that you have and the content of the different things that you do. And, we live in the Bible Belt and very conservative areas. And I wondered, because of the content and the location of some of your centers, it might appear that some of these things are related to religious beliefs and, it may challenge people's religious beliefs. Because of the nature of some of the kinds of the things that you do. So do you see this as a challenge, or, I remember Elizabeth Kubler-Ross used to live around here, and she had a lot of challenges now it's mainstream, but at the time, people were very frightened of her. In your areas, how have people responded to you? In terms of the public, your neighbors.
Well, I think we've passed the the taking down of some of, and destruction of some of the flyers that have gone around town. We've passed that a few years ago. And the work that I personally teach, which is very connected to the farm in and of itself, is non-denominational. It's all faith, all embracing. And I work with what I feel is the common thread between all great religions, which is love. So there are people who think that it's because it doesn't have a denomination and it doesn't have religious application, or it doesn't have religious references, that something may be wrong. But basically, I stay in my heart. I put out what I feel is the work that I feel really connected to, and it feels as if the people who might be concerned either aren't paying any attention, and those that are attracted to it are either asking questions and or moving forward, or joining or coming to find out, and picking and choosing what it is that they come to experience so that they can have a feeling of what it is.
Back to like attracts like.
Exactly.
So how have your experience, well, you've been around, yours has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So how, Marguerite, how does...
I feel a lot of what Antonia said is a similar kind of situation, that, so much of what I offer at the center has to do with wellness as well, and de-stressing, and, coming out and having a massage or an energy healing treatment. And so that's about health and healing. And I have had some churches do their retreats there, which was wonderful. And so I feel there's a lovely interweaving and an interconnectedness. It's an all-embracing thing. And I felt like the bottom line is love and the interconnectedness of all of life. And, we're all human beings. And, I think we're all really learning how to live together and accept each other. And I loved what the Dalai Lama said when he was here last time, but he said it certainly before that. He said, "My religion is kindness."
Oh, I like that.
And it's beautiful. And I think we are, my neighbors have been wonderful. And I think some of them have absolutely just raised their eyebrows. And they really like me, and they'll come and help me with my plumbing and help me, plow my driveway and, ask me how things are. And it's been a really wonderful experience so far. I was worried, I must say. I was a little concerned. And I think it's working out really well.
Yeah, I wondered, because a lot of things that you do, the kinds of experiences that people can have often make people afraid if they don't understand, or, just reading some of the titles that you've all sent me over the years, might make people a little concerned about, the kinds of things that go on in your places. Now, I know at the Monroe Institute, I've heard people, because it's been around for so many years, I've heard people, talk about, they're trying to reprogram us, and,
Oh, no, you got to hear the really good one. Really good one.
Go ahead.
The really good one was, back in the past, we used to take a brain out of one person and put it into the other.
Did they really say that?
Yes, really.
And then another was, we were taking people's souls and switching those around, you see.
Interesting. I never heard those. Whoa.
Right?
Ours are boring. Ours are totally boring.
No, we're talking 30-some years ago, of course, you see, and we're still there. And I think the way we approach it is, everyone is entitled to his and her own beliefs.
Absolutely.
God bless them all. And like you all are saying, it comes from the heart. So watch the behavior of the people.
Right.
A lot of the community works for us now and with us, and takes care of us. And now they understand what we are and what we're not. And so,
wonderful.
Yes, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was a very good friend of ours. And so we were trying to help her out over there when all this was going on. But you cannot change, nor should we try to change people's beliefs.
Right.
They are
exactly.
entitled to what they want to believe.
And ironically, it is a kind of reprogramming, because we've been enculturated into this fast-paced, technological, world that disconnects us from nature. And in a sense, it is a kind of reprogramming, or is there a better word? Thank you.
Reset.
Right.
Yeah, like push the reset.
Reboot.
You're right. Reset or reboot button.
Into what?
To our natural way of being, really.
Okay.
More authentic way of being.
Authentic, natural,
Way of
alignment.
being. Yeah. And so, that's why I wanted to bring up the topic, because, when people go to see the different various kinds of workshops and things that I wanted to make sure that people understood that you're not trying to change any kind of beliefs
Absolutely
or
not.
anything.
No,
that they have.
again, the only belief we ask that you look at is if you'll just suspend disbelief that I'm only my physical body, is that we are more than our physical bodies. That's the
Exactly.
one thing we ask you to consider.
I agree. And what so much of what happens at Bridge Between the Worlds is an exploration in consciousness. How can we become more conscious? How can we become more awake and aware? That's it.
One of the things that I've talked about in this program before is the fact that our culture, really, our children are at a disservice because we no longer have any kinds of rituals that really matter anymore. When we were growing up, we had different kinds of things that we did to the passage of time. When you were this age, when you lost a tooth, even though it may have been the fairy stories and things like that, there were rituals for all the different parts of our life. We don't have that anymore. And I think what has happened is that with the loss of that connection to the continuity, people don't have the meaning of life. They want to know what their purpose in life is. And, they lose I see so many books with that title or various titles. Right. And so this is a way is this a way, what you're doing, to help people to get back to that?
Absolutely.
So how does that happen? How do people get, rebooted, as you said?
Would you like to define ritual so that we can answer it a little better? Because I'm not quite sure, in some people's minds, ritual can be pretty strange. And so I would like from Dr. Daria.
Okay, tell us what you mean by that. Rituals meaning?
Well, that's what I'm asking. Want to talk about rituals, but I don't know exactly what kind of rituals you're referring to.
Well, things that help us to have, like we have birthday parties
Marking
to
the passages
celebrate.
of time.
Exactly.
And marking celebrations.
We have baptism. We have confirmation. I'm thinking of religious
holidays
things. Holidays.
Yeah,
all
sure.
of those are rituals, so to speak. They become a little far-fetched in terms of the origin of where they came from, and have much more become, capitalism. But
right, that's a good point.
And which is why
meaningful,
I think exactly
meaningful connecting
which is
ritual.
why I think people have lost the meaning of life, because our rituals have become meaningless in that sense. So that's what I mean.
Okay. We don't do it often, but we do things like the solstice celebrations. And we either do it in the meditation garden or on the hilltop on Mount Grace. I'm trying to think of rituals. We have, people that come out on their own for birthdays and anniversaries and those type of things, but those are rituals. And I'm always surprised that people take the time out of their crazy, busy lives to actually do that. And in fact, I'm very, very pleased, because people seem to get so busy that they don't even take time for that anymore. It's just even something that we take for granted, like a birthday or an anniversary, or I say take for granted, but we celebrate it at home, but we don't think to actually take our partners or our friends or ourselves out to celebrate ourselves, or the celebration of our entry into this earth plane, if you want to put it that way. It doesn't have to be a celebration of a number as much as it is your birth and your presence here on the earth.
And I think at Bridge Between the Worlds, it's, again, not so much that we're offering a ritual, but it feels like we're opening up a safe place for people and individuals to come and create their own ritual.
Right.
So people who come and have their own time at the retreat cabin, they may finally, bring all those, things that they wanted to start to draw, and they wanted to start making their own mandalas, or they wanted to paint, or they wanted to come and be with their instrument, or just be with their journal and be with themselves. And then in that time that they're kind of communing with themselves, they're creating their own ritual in a sense.
What she said. But I want to say something. This may sound a little odd, but this is not necessarily Institute stuff. This is me stuff. In talking with some of my clients before I came back as a director, I'm an astrologer. And one of my things is to try to, bring out from each person the best light that they can realize about themselves. And so what I suggest is when you get out of bed in the morning and you pad across the floor on your way to the bathroom, make each step meaningful. Bless the floor, bless the thing. When you brush your teeth, as you watch the toothpaste go off, bless the toothbrush. Be grateful for your mindfulness. Be grateful for the fact you have teeth, or that whose ever teeth you've got, whatever. Being grateful, being mindful. That is the ritual. However you want to apply it, that's what I would suggest.
What she said.
And one of the rituals that I did for a while, and it just reminded me that I've stopped doing it, is wanting to be a habit, is to, before I went to sleep at night, to just begin to say my gratitudes for the different things in my life. And I would just go through everything, including the challenges and including people that you think, the teachers and all the rest of it. But and it's amazing, even if you've had what you would consider a poopy day,
right? Exactly.
you start going, wow, and thank you for this and thank you for that. And I also had started doing that when I awoke in the morning. Thanking for the ability to take another breath, or to open my eyes and have another day to walk upon this earth.
Thanking
or
for
hoping
the
that I have one more day for the whole day will go through.
Right.
Those are rituals that we create ourselves, and things that become very special that we don't have to go away to do, but that make us more conscious human beings and appreciative of everything that we have.
Absolutely. And really brings that interconnectedness, because that goes beyond religion or different beliefs or whatever. Gratitude, being grateful for being alive.
And appreciation.
Yeah,
and I think that's one of the things, a ritual a long time ago may have been sitting your children down to pray, now I lay me down to sleep and all that. But, to make it more relevant in modern times, it's about saying what is it that you appreciate, what is it that happened during the day that you can be grateful for. And I think I can't name a handful of people who are raising their children to do that at night, to be grateful. It's all about what am I missing? What can I get? What do I need? What do I ask for?
Changes everything when you shift over.
Exactly. And I think if we did that more often with our children, I mean, there more and more people are not religious. We know that, and children are not being raised in religious institutions as much. And so if we can start those kinds of rituals with our children where they're grateful for what they have, I think their attitudes about life, and the me culture and and it brings you out of yourself, and also thinking about, a lot of people spend the day thinking negatively about focusing on the negative parts of their life instead of the positive. And I think what this forces people to do is to think about the positive side of life.
It's actually the blessings. The gratitudes are the blessings. It's saying, we're just saying thank you for this blessing and this blessing. And we begin to, I find that I begin to be aware of more and more of how many blessings have already arrived in my space.
And we talked about this, when we met earlier, about the fact that all of us live in these beautiful spaces. And sometimes we forget, even living in the beautiful spaces that we live in, how fortunate we are, as compared to, where many other people live. So
there's also a wellness aspect of gratitude. And I'm thinking of the Heart Math Institute out in California, when they have these practices of gratitude, and they measure that around the magnetic field of the heart, that the heart field creates around the body. And so it's healthy, and it's good for a lot of things to feel grateful.
Well,
absolutely.
It actually creates a coherent energy field.
Coherent energy field.
Right, exactly.
That's what we're speaking about.
So I hope that you have really enjoyed our topic this evening, because, and if you don't go to one of these places at some point, you are really missing out, because as you can probably guess, these women own and operate many wonderful, wonderful getaways. And I encourage you to do that with each one of them. And we'll go through each one of them again, and you can find more information on our website, www.whatwisewomenwant.com, about each one of these women, each one of their institutes or places of getaway. And also, I'm going to go around to our table. If you have any questions, you can call them, or you can find out about them through their own websites for their own institutions. To my right has been Margretta McIlvane, founder of Bridge Between the Worlds. To her right has been Antonia Albano, who is the owner and general manager of South River Highlands Country Retreat. And I'll tell people that's in Lexington, whereas Maggie is much more, is closer in
Keswick.
Keswick, yes. And Nancy McMoneagle, who's the executive director and president of the Monroe Institute, which is in Nelson County. I think we neglected to say that earlier, and I wanted to make sure that people know. Although Lexington is not that far away, so.
an hour.
But I want to thank you, ladies, for coming the distance you have on this. It's cold. It's very cold outside.
Thank you very much for
You're very
having
welcome,
us.
and sharing with us, your magical, magical places. And again, I have been fortunate to be, at every one of these places. And we look forward to talking with you again next week. You may join us at any time by emailing us through our website at www.whatwisewomenwant.com. And remember, Wize is spelled with a Z. You can look on our website to find out what our future programs will be or the topics we've spoken about in the past. We look forward to having you join us again, and have a good day.